What's up, YouTube? This is Megan. Welcome back to my channel, to my returning subscribers. However, if this is your first time joining me on today, welcome. Come on in, have a seat. Okay, it's here that we use information from celestial bodies to help us gain a better understanding of our favorite celebrities, world events, but most importantly, our damn selves. Okay, so come on in, thumbs up this video on your way in, and subscribe to become a part of the family. All right. So with that being said, today I am coming to y'all with another celebrity Synastry reading, this time on Meg Thee Stallion and Kelsey, who is her former best friend and assistant. So the scope of this reading is to basically evaluate the Synastry, the shared connection or relationship between the two, to give us more of a perspective on what could have taken place the night that Meg Thee Stallion was shot in the foot. As I'm sure everybody knows now, because there is a ongoing public trial happening with the state of California and Tory Lanez, who was the other individual, the third party to this whole escapade. Back in 2020, Meg Thee Stallion was shot in the foot in Beverly Hills or Los Angeles, wherever the case may be. And there's been this big whodunit speculation in terms of who is responsible for pulling the trigger. Although Meg alleges it to be Tory, he is currently on trial. I forgot the charges he's facing, but it's not like attempted M-word. It's something else. But, you know, you have that trial going. Then you have the court of public opinion, where you got people on both sides. It's giving very much Bloods versus Crips, East Coast versus West Coast vibes. You know, some people feel like you should believe Megan, all of what Megan says, protect Black women. Other people hated her from the get-go. It's just, whatever, right? Everybody got their own opinions, including myself. But more recently, I have kind of opened myself up to the theory, right? And this is speculative on my part, so let me make this disclaimer, that Kelsey may have been the one who pulled the trigger. Allegedly. So we're going to put this into more of an astrological context, and I'm going to break down my reasoning. So on one hand, we have Meg Thee Stallion, born February 15th, 1995 at 11 a.m. in San Antonio, Texas. On the other hand, we have Kelsey, born August 28th, 1995 in Houston, Texas. Now, one of the first things that stood out to me was the fact that there was so much adverse Pluto contact between the two of them, specifically with Kelsey's Pluto. And the thing about being friends with and dealing with people who are really close in age to you is that 9 times out of 10, the generational planets, which would be like the outer planets, starting with, some people would include Jupiter in this, but definitely Saturn, definitely Neptune, Uranus, Pluto, they're usually going to be in the same sign. Like if you are very close in age to a friend, a partner, or whoever, the outer planets are going to be the same. Okay, 9 times out of 10. Meaning the way in which your synastry could kind of be aspected with one another might overlap with the aspects found in your natal chart. So for example, Meg Thee Stallion has a lot of adverse Pluto aspects in her own chart. She has Sun and Moon square Pluto. In her synastry with Kelsey, because they're born in the same year, Kelsey's Pluto just so happens to be doing all of the things to Meg's personal planets that Pluto is doing in Meg's own chart, which is really going to reinforce the energy signature. So for example, with Kelsey having her Pluto square Meg's Sun in that 10th house of Aquarius, it could kind of mimic the way Sun square Pluto plays out for Meg natally, which in Meg's case would be receiving a lot of backlash, a lot of hate, a lot of public animosity, where she could be a very polarizing figure and could have people out to get her. And a lot of times this could play out by way of the internet, because Meg is an Aquarius sun. With that sun in the 10th house of Aquarius, it could deal with her being a very present, very prominent person on social media. So, that sun squaring Pluto in the 7th house of Sagittarius could be like smear campaigns or online bullying. And honestly, to be fair, it works in both directions, because just as much as I've seen people who hate Meg and who are dead set against Meg, you got the stallies, the horsies, who will drag people by their scalps no matter what evidence or lack thereof is presented in front of them. So Kelsey having her Pluto square Meg's sun in the 10th house could create that same level of animosity from Kelsey to Meg. Although the energy can kind of go back and forth. It could be a door that swings both ways. That doesn't mean Meg doesn't have animosity towards Kelsey. But it could also deal with where Kelsey could be intimidated, threatened by Meg. Not to mention Kelsey also having her Pluto square Meg's Leo moon as well. That could deal with where there's some deep-seated resentment, jealousy, especially involving men, okay? Meg has that conjunction between her Mars and her moon in Leo. Now, my good girlies with Mars moon contact can attest to this in terms of having difficult relationships with women, because a lot of times you find that women tend to compete with you. But this could also create a woman who could be kind of catty, who's not unfamiliar with competing with other women. And with this Moon-Mars conjunction taking place in Leo, a lot of times it's over men. And you also have to bear in mind that Meg's Moon and Mars in Leo is opposing her Sun in Aquarius. That could quite literally play out in terms of her falling out with friends over men, her competing with her friends over men, her fighting with her friends over men. Fights that could have resulted in shots fired, with Meg having that sun in opposition to Mars. Mars deals with violence, gunfire, fights as well. And with Aries being in the 12th house rules intoxication. This could deal with where Meg herself could get considerably violent when inebriated, but it could also just deal with where she could find herself in situations where shit get messy. You have to keep in mind that Leo rules partying, right? So with that Leo moon conjoined to Mars and Aries in the 12th, like where she could be the type to party and where shit gets really sloppy to the point where, fights can break out, arguments can break out. In this case, a shooting could break out while, she's drunk. And the 12th house also deals with the feet. So Aries in the 12th house is literally being shot in your foot, quite literally. So, you see how this is already starting to shape and take form. Now with Kelsey having her Pluto in that 7th house of Sagittarius, squaring Meg's sun, this could also deal with her having some sort of chip on her shoulder against Meg, to where maybe there's a vendetta to get back at her. Pluto is definitely revenge based, and this get back could take place in a court setting. Pluto in Sagittarius, especially in Meg's 7th house, which is also reinforced by Meg also having Pluto in the 7th house of Sagittarius, is very much like a public trial. Something that's put on, display for the world to see, situations where you're being judged. And with Kelsey's Pluto squaring Meg's sun like that, it's like, that was her form of get back, which is why everybody was so curious. And some people even were upset about the fact that when Kelsey took the stand, she seemingly recanted all of her initial statements that corroborated Meg's version of the events. So, with all of these adverse Pluto aspects, I have no doubt that Kelsey has some grudges that she's holding against Meg and could be very much out to get her or have a vendetta against her. Not to mention, Kelsey also has her Pluto opposing to Meg's ascendant. That could quite literally make somebody a physical threat to you. That could deal with where maybe restraining orders have to be taken out. That could deal with where, there could be a power struggle, a physical, literal power struggle, people going back and forth. So, I get it. I see it's a lot of animosity, tight things. I'm getting it fully. Another way that Kelsey's Pluto squaring Meg's sun in that 10th house of Aquarius could play out is there being outside forces, interfering forces, especially when it comes to Meg's other friends that could put Kelsey off. So where Meg has other friends or other people involved that Kelsey don't too much fuck with. And with Meg's son being in the 10th house, you know, you got to think about the 10th house and what that means for like a celebrity. The 10th house, which is naturally ruled by Capricorn, can oftentimes make, like, if you have your son here as a celebrity or a famous person, it could make a person not necessarily indebted to, but a person who is very much centered around like their brand. You know, their public image is their brand. And these are people who take it seriously. And for Meg, you know, she also has a Capricorn stellium taking place in that 9th house. Okay. As a Taurus South Node, with the South Node being in the 12th house and having Venus in the 9th house of Capricorn, lots of investment from like public entities, you know, people who have a vested interest in Meg looking a certain way, being perceived a certain way. Same thing with her son being in that 10th house. So it's like these people tend to, you know, the people they enmesh themselves with, there's going to be this kind of like opportunistic energy. These are people who can be viewed as like very robotic or mechanical. There's really not much loyalty there, if you want to be honest. And that has been a critique that a lot of people have made of Megan. A valid critique, might I add. No, it don't justify her being shot in the foot, but it just, you know, it's a valid, we can, more than one thing could be true at once. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, okay? So, you know, I thought that was really interesting because with that sun squaring Kelsey's Pluto, it could deal with where, like, she don't like that about her, like where that could really bother her. And there was this theory that like after the shooting initially happened, Kelsey or Meg's team kind of got in the way and tried to, you know, negotiate between her and Kelsey, or try to, you know, get Kelsey out the picture. This is why Meg don't keep the same group of friends. It's very like dark side of Aquarius. It's almost like her label or the people she's working for are like dominating that part of her life. Or if she does make friends, it's based on almost like convenience or like how accessible these people are to, like, you know, the proximity between where she wants to be and where, you know, that kind of thing. But whatever. So I thought that was interesting. Okay. So there's that. Now, something else that stood out to me in regards to their Synastry together, they do have, like, you know, some good aspects going on. Meg's Uranus is trining Kelsey's Mercury. You know, that could make them very close friends. That could even be like a childhood friend. But I think they met in college, which, I mean, technically still also makes sense. And it could also deal with where Kelsey really helped her a lot. Kelsey is a Virgo. She has that Virgo Sun-Venus conjunction, which literally deals with her being an assistant, her friend's assistant, you know, maybe having some other jobs in the industry where she's working with celebrities and so on and so forth. But, Kelsey also has her sun and her Venus squaring Jupiter in Sagittarius. And that could create an issue because it's like, on one hand, she may be good at what she does as an assistant. You have to keep in mind, Virgo is the sign of service. These people a lot of times can find themselves in very subservient positions, which is why they make excellent assistants. You know, people who do like clerical work, interns, right? They do really good at assessing other people's needs, you know, being hands-on with the little day-to-day tasks, right? You make a list, make a task, a chore list. I'm going to get it done. I know what you need before you need. All of these things are inclusive of what people require from a really good assistant, and Virgo naturally just dominates at those things. But with Kelsey having her Sun and Venus squaring Jupiter and Sag, it could deal with where Virgo can be really small, and a lot of times they don't get the thanks that they need, or even the recognition that they need for what they do, which is why a lot of times they can also complain a lot or feel unfulfilled. But with that square to Jupiter in Sagittarius, it could deal with where sometimes Kelsey herself feels like she's the celebrity, or like she's on God status. You know what I mean? Like, and that you got to pick one. You can't be no good assistant and kind of have that, like, I'm the celebrity, I'm the star kind of mindset in your brain, where like she may be the one who kind of has like a little bit of like the God complex kind of thing is what I'm getting. But it could also even deal with like her putting somebody on blast, or other people trying to put her on blast. So I thought that was interesting. But getting back into the synastry between the two of them, okay, some other very interesting finds was that Meg's Uranus is squaring Kelsey's North Node, that Libra North Node. It's also not lost upon me that with Kelsey having that Aries South Node, y'all know Aries once again because it is the natural ruling sign for Mars, right? Well, one of them. It deals with guns. It deals with where she could be trigger happy. Okay. And it's opposing her natal Mars. She has Mars opposing her Aries South Node. So, I mean, that right there could deal with her being, especially with her nodes at the 29th degree. The 29th degree could deal with high pressure situations, situations that were things that were in-house could come spilling out publicly, or where it could just be like a do or die, like trauma, crises, like a really big situation could pop off. So like you could look at this as like a shooting or something like that. And, I thought that was really interesting. I'm not going to lie. With Meg having her Neptune squaring Kelsey's nose, this could deal with Meg's team could really be doing their best to kind of curtail and do some damage control in regards to, Kelsey and maybe her testament in court, or, where there could be like a lot of backdoor behind the scenes stuff going on with Meg's team trying to conceal what's going on with Kelsey. But also Neptune also rules the feet. And with that with her Neptune, Meg's Neptune squaring Kelsey's Mars, this quite literally could be another translation that could deal with Kelsey being the one who pulled the trigger and shot Megan in the feet or the foot or whatever the case may be. The number 29 with Kelsey's nose being at the 29th degree of Libra and Aries could deal with third party interferences. So Meg having her Neptune squaring this could deal with where, it was some shady situations going on, some funny money, some shady business, especially involving a man, right? Neptune square Mars. And then, it shit pops off. Kelsey also has Mars square Neptune natally. That could also deal with, once again, shooting somebody in the foot. It could also deal with where she maybe made a mistake, where she could shoot her own self in the foot figuratively in court, where maybe something that she did is coming back to bite her in the ass. So maybe her playing dumb or crazy could come back to bite her in the ass too. And she need to be careful because she also has Neptune squaring her nodes. So that could land her in jail if she's not careful. You could also look at this as whenever Kelsey is inebriated, she could also be kind of out of control. I'm not even going to lie. Because to make things worse, she also has Mars square Uranus. That could also make a person a wild card when they get angry. Her Mars square Neptune could deal with where she could like go into like a blind rage when she's drunk. So honestly, in terms of the sloppy behavior, especially when alcohol is involved, you can make a strong case for both, like Meg and Kelsey. So I see all of the background situations that may have led up to what took place that night, to be honest with you. Because Kelsey does have some smoking gun aspects in her chart that make things like, I feel like you did this, girl. I feel like you totally did this. Now, with Kelsey having her Mars conjoined to her Libra North Node, that deals with her, on a karmic level, she may act out in situations where, later on now she got to go to court for it. You know what I mean? So she got to be careful, especially with that Aries South Node. The Aries South Nodes can be very trigger happy, and they are some fighters. And what could end up happening a lot of times is that these people can be placed in situations where they act out, or they do things without really thinking them through, because that's the karma for an Aries South Node. In this lifetime, you have to learn how to weigh out your pros and cons. And anytime you react without thinking, these people can get physical, violent, be put in violent situations. And it's like, one of the consequences of that is having to face the legal system. Libra, you know what I mean? And with Kelsey having her Mars conjoined to that Libra North Node, opposing her South Node in Aries, is like, yeah, you may find yourself in situations where you kind of got to answer for what you did, or now you caught up and entangled in court, you know what I'm saying, or being sued, or these are people who can actually even look to sue other people too. So, or where they can find themselves in the middle of shit. So yeah, I can see how that can get really messy, especially with her Mars squaring Neptune like that, and Neptune squaring the North Node, because alcohol could just make shit like that worse. You know what I'm saying? So, and Neptune deals with scandal. Like, that shit it's scandalous. It's scandalous. Even when the way Meg's Neptune is squaring, Kelsey's Mars as well. That could be like a scandalous, once again, third party situation where Meg is kind of snaking her, but it could also deal with where Kelsey quite literally shot her in the foot. So, I thought that was interesting. Meg does have her Uranus squaring Kelsey's North Node. That also reinforces where there's a lot of people on Megan's end and just outside parties interfering. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kelsey really felt that way. Like, our connection is one thing, but you have a lot of people involved in our relationship, and that could really mess a lot of shit up too. So yeah, this concludes my reading. I ain't want it to be too long, y'all. So drop down in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think about this whole situation. I promise you, I'm not here to argue with you. Whatever your opinion is on the situation, I'm gonna let you have it, because I'm tired. At this point, let's just wrap it up. Meg, you're still alive, girl. You live to try another day. I need this discussion closed by the end of the week. Come on. All right. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Love you. Bye.